Hey everybody, welcome to a very special audio edition of ToTheEscapeHatch.com's Favorite Scene Friday. It's a very special audio edition because it is our 200th Favorite Scene Friday. I'm your host, Robert Zerby from ToTheEscapeHatch.com, the premier destination for sporadic posts about scenes from movies and not much else. With me are three veteran Favorite Scene Friday contributors. Jay Cluitt, he's from LifeVersusFilm.com, and he's the shepherd of the large association of movie blogs at largeassmovieblogs.com, and host of the Lambcast. Welcome, Jay.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl.
We will get to that later. Nick Rehak from FrenchToastSunday.com and the French Toast Sunday podcast.
Hey.
Hi. And the founder of FrenchToastSunday.com, Lindsay Street, also from the French Toast Sunday podcast.
Hello.
Hello. So, our scene today is from Alien. It's the famous chestburster scene. The main character we will talk about is Kane, of course, played by John Hurt, and we will just get right into it. What is everyone's relationship like with this scene? Specifically, do you remember seeing it for the first time? Do you remember being shocked? Like, did you know it was going to happen? Nick?
Well, actually, before I even saw this, I saw the parody of this scene in Spaceballs.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it never registered like where it came from or what it was. I just thought it was kind of funny that, you know, that this thing would kind of happen. And then here I am watching Alien like many years later. Like I didn't watch this till probably in my 20s or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching it and all of a sudden it just starts happening and I'm like, is what I think gonna happen? And then it happens, but it's so much more terrifying just because he's not getting out and singing and dancing and just the overall tone of the film.
So did you not know that that from Spaceballs was like a parody of Alien until you were watching Alien?
Correct. I had no idea. I thought
Wow.
it was just some one-off, like, random thing they were doing. And it didn't even dawn on me until, like, subsequent rewatches of Spaceballs that it was actually John Hurt
Right.
in the scene, like, kind of reprising that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Not just John
which
Hurt,
makes
but
it even better.
that character, supposedly, because he's like, oh no, not again. Like, I thought about saying, hey guys, like, watch this scene as well, because you can't really talk about this scene from Alien without this scene from Spaceballs.
Sure.
Jay, do
Well,
you remember seeing this scene for the first time or whatever?
I think I saw the scene before I saw the film.
Okay.
I think in the UK they have a bunch of shows that list like top 100 scariest scenes of all time or whatever, and I'm
Yeah,
fairly sure
that's
I've
true.
seen it appear on that before I actually saw the film.
Yeah. That's actually, I think it was, I know it was like Bravo's #2 scariest scene or something at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, it's number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. What's number 1?
Jaws?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Ben Gardner's back.
Yeah, the head. So I was familiar with what was going to happen. I didn't know whereabouts in the film it came because it was such an iconic scene. I thought, oh, it's going to be right at the end or fairly into the beginning, but no, it's pretty much straight right in the halfway point, which is nice. It's
Right.
the point of the film where it goes from sci-fi to horror. It's that
Yeah,
kind of changeover.
Exactly.
But the first time I saw the film was when I was 18 or 19, and it was a period of my life where I was trying to watch all the films I hadn't seen, but not really pay attention to them. I just figured to be a film fan, you just have to have been in a room with a film on,
Is that not
and
how
that
it
counts.
works?
That counts.
That's what I've
That's
been
enough.
doing.
So I would just sit at my laptop doing homework or whatever, and have a TV on over the corner of it with films playing.
You would
And
just be like a movie fan by osmosis. You would just like absorb the
I would
rays
just
coming out
systematically
of the...
ruin films for myself, basically.
Right. Lindsay, what is your relationship with this? Do you remember seeing it for the first time?
I'm not familiar with this scene. I'm not really sure why you asked me to do that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm very similar to the last two.
Yeah.
I have seen this scene before. I've seen, I think, pretty much all of the more iconic imagery. Maybe not direct scenes, but at least I was familiar with, what facehuggers were and chestbursters, mainly because their descriptors are very accurate to what they're doing.
Right.
But I was pretty much aware of it before I saw the film, and I saw it actually, like Nick, in my early 20s probably.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a movie that eluded me, I suppose. But I really love Alien, especially the first one. I think that it's such a finely crafted horror movie, and this scene in particular, even though I sort of knew what was coming, it's really hard to not rewatch this scene and sort of be in awe of its effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
It's it is creepy, but when you sort of watch it on rewatch, even though you know in your mind exactly what's happening. There's a certain level of what's happening each time you kind of watch it because of the way it plays out.
Right,
And it
right.
has like sort of an odd pacing, or like a building that you are never quite sure when it is John Hurt starts to get sick, or is about to go down, if so to speak.
Mhm.
So when you watch it, every time you're sort of scared by anticipating the actual chest bursting. And
Right.
then there's like 1,000 other things to talk about why the scene's really effective. But it's one of my favorites. And I think the first Alien film is still by far my favorite of the series. So
Me too.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm similar. I don't remember. This is just in my brain, in my consciousness. I don't remember seeing Alien for the first time. I don't remember seeing the scene for the first time. It's just always been in my brain. And I agree, it's a fantastic film. One anecdote I love. I probably mentioned this before on the Lambcast or something, but my dad, and this is a testament to like old films and old previews and stuff like that. The preview for Alien is fantastic. It's just the egg cracking open and that's it. And my dad, literally told me that back in whatever 79 or whatever, whenever this came out, he had like an auto shop, auto parts store, and he just like shut the business down for the day and went with my mom and saw this movie. And like I can't imagine, like, especially at the time, I guess, like not having seen anything like that. And it's still holds up today, kind of effects wise. It's not perfect.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it would be like easily placed in a movie and I wouldn't bat much of an eye.
Yeah. So for them to not even really know what the movie is, I mean, obviously it's an ominous trailer, so it's a horror, it's sci-fi, but just to see that.
But does anyone expect that though? I mean, how could anyone ever expect that? I'm not even being hyperbolic. Like, some fucking weird phallic alien with teeth jumped out of someone's chest.
Yeah.
It would be realistic. Like, I mean, it could be so absurd, and it's not. Like, I mean, it is weird and silly, and like you can see why it's ripe for parody, and he's got a little tiny mouth and he's a goofball, but it's not. Like, it's so scary that it works really well. Like, it was a real ballsy move that paid off, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard from people who saw it at the time that in their cinema, about a quarter to a third of the people tended to leave at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, after this scene, because this was not the film they thought it was going to be, and they did not want to go any further with it.
Right.
And yeah, I could see that, but it's what you think about when you think of the film now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a completely different opinion after the fact than beforehand.
So I hope this isn't like super off topic, but this did make me think when I watched it, and I thought about watching something like this for the first time, or like it reminds you of all your favorite big time, like when you see the dinosaur in Jurassic Park for the first time, things like that. I'm trying to remember a movie now, like within my like adulthood, that had like such an effect where everyone collectively needed to talk about how amazing what they were seeing on screen is. And I know I'm going to get shit for it and I don't care, but the only thing I can kind of think of is maybe Avatar.
Okay. Well,
But like, you think about that. Like, what was the last thing that you think people saw that they were genuinely like shocked they were watching it in theaters? Either a moment or an effect or something like that. Like, I can't imagine sitting in the theater in like 79 and seeing that, and then like, what do you think for the rest of that movie? Like, they got you. Like, I mean, it's just it's so effective.
I think quite a lot of Fury Road, maybe.
But did it make you think, like, I mean, Fury Road is like a sensory overload, but I don't know if anything. Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably a pretty close one.
For me,
the guy on the stick on the car is pretty like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Well, Duforier, the guy, the like blind guy playing. That's pretty shocking. It's probably not a great example, but sort of similar in that it was just like I didn't really know what it was, and it had new stuff, and The Matrix. I mean, that's an old example, but that kind of, because I didn't know what that was. I mean, that's another good example of marketing. It's like you didn't know what The Matrix was until you watched the movie. At least I didn't, and that was crazy. I think that I was like slightly too young, like, because I do remember that my older brothers and sisters were definitely like that, and so by the time I watched it, I guess it had been out a couple of years, and they had prepared me, but it was pretty mind-blowing. But it's just I don't know, the scene is so iconic, it's ridiculous. I mean, talking about like not knowing what's going on, not being surprised, not knowing what to expect, I mean, you could say that it's sort of like an urban legend, I guess, because it's like I always see conflicting reports, like the actors didn't know what was going to happen in this scene, and it's like it's been exaggerated. I think they knew kind of the basics of what was going to happen, but I really need to watch this movie with the commentary on. I kind of meant to do that, but IMDb has a ton of stuff, and it was like,
I read an article about this actually. The whole cast did like an interview for, I want to say like Entertainment Weekly or something like that back in the day. But yeah, it's pretty much how you described it. They knew what the scene was pretty much exactly. Like they knew like a creature was coming and, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But they shot everything else. And then when they shot the actual like chest bursting, they didn't really know at all how it was going to happen. They just assumed, because I guess they also assumed practical effects weren't as going to be as effective like in front of their eyes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They were like, what can they do?
The whole cast was waiting basically for like 4 hours while they prepped like the room that it happens in, and essentially like John Hurt has a made chest cavity and he's under the table, so just his head and hands pop out.
Right.
But by the time they came down there, they said the whole like room was like Dexter style, like they had the plastic up and for the blood, so they're thinking, oh shit, like what are they going to do here? And they said it smelled really heavily of formaldehyde because they had used a bunch of like organs from like the butcher shop and things like that.
Like animal guts, which is really disgusting.
Which actually I think makes that blood on the alien look so fucking good. Like it probably because it's real blood.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, then so they knew something was coming. You get like the spurt and things like that. But they said they had no idea like what it was gonna like look like when it came out or how it was gonna come out, and they all just said it was so visceral. They said moments before when they were like prepping to do the scene, somebody said to Sigourney like you really getting into the moment, because she looked really scared, and she was like, no, I just have this feeling I'm about to be very repulsed by something. Out, they said they just really loaded it with like blood, and Veronica Cartwright got like a giant chunk of it in her face. So when you see her in the scene where she like screams and like kind of falls and don't really see her much, that's totally real. And apparently she did actually faint right after that scene.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, they all look terrified. The guy that plays, I'm blanking on his name, the guy that plays Dallas.
Tom Skerritt.
Yeah, he looks terrified. Like he looks horrified when that happens. I mean, I would be like, even knowing kind of basically what's going to happen. I mean, I think I agree. Like, the effects of the time, like, I mean, obviously it's like we're getting the finished product, but I kind of wonder, how that looked like on set and whatnot. But yeah, that would. I mean, it blows my mind just watching it as a finished product. So to be there would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
I'd heard that Sigourney Weaver and Veronica Cartwright actually had seen the puppet before. They'd gone to like a model shop and seen, but it had little arms at that point. They hadn't quite finished it, and it looked stupid. It looked like a little springy arm thing. Yeah. And so it still has the little bumps on the side where the arms were just trimmed off and sanded down.
Yeah.
I'd heard basically the same as Lindsay, where they knew the bones of the scene, but not that there would be blood involved. So yeah, I feel very sorry for Veronica Cartwright for going through that, because she just gets covered in this horrendous ick. And talking about the animal guts, in the scene prior when you have the dead facehugger, they used like real clams and oysters in that as well.
God, they were like just one-upping each other. Like, what can we put in here that's like the most disgusting shit?
It's kind of perfect though, because that smell has to affect you like within the scene. So I'm sure like even if she's not scared, which she clearly was, but if you're getting like you're smelling formaldehyde and then getting some random, we don't know, animal's blood and guts all over your face, you might be a little worked up about that.
For sure. The craziest accounting I've heard of this recently is again from IMDb, but it was just recently. I guess Sigourney Weaver was interviewed after John Hurt just recently passed, and I mean, this is crazy. She, according to this quote or whatever, she said she thought John Hurt was actually dying when they filmed that scene.
She said in that old interview that the reason she kind of looked so disturbed was that she was really concerned for him. I think she didn't know exactly what was happening, and I don't even know if they knew it was a chest cavity. I have no idea, but she said like he thought he was in pain.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a hard scene to watch. Like, it looks like he's having a stroke or a seizure or something crazy. I mean, they even kind of go to put like a spoon in his mouth or whatever. I mean, it's some good acting.
Yeah,
my favorite reaction throughout the entire film of any character is always Brett, Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah,
because he's at the back just like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's like, we were eating.
What now?
Yeah. exactly.
He's like half-heartedly trying to hold down one of John Hurt's legs, but most of his expression is like, "What? What am I? What now?" And that's just him throughout the entire film. And then
Yeah.
he dies very soon after this scene.
Yeah, and we're going off of, I think, what is it, like Fandango movie clips now? It used to be just movie clips or whatever on YouTube. So it's just a 2-minute scene, but there's a lot more happening than just kind of this the chestburster coming out. Nick, did anything else in the scene that like again 2 minutes, but a lot happens? Anything else just like kind of stand out to you, or even like a play-by-play or anything like that of what happens?
I was actually rewatching it before we had this conversation just to keep it fresh in my mind. And one thing that I kind of noticed for the first time is that when the alien kind of pops out of his chest and is looking around, it's got metal teeth.
Yeah.
Like
Terrifying.
That's how is that a thing? Like the face is obviously like gestating, his body's gestating this egg or something, and somehow it's got like metal and some kind of acid within its body that can like just obviously breach through the hole and stuff. Like, it's, to me, like having that kind of creature inside of you and just explode is completely insane and terrifying. And then the way it just stares at everybody, like it's calculating maybe body heats or signatures of some sort, like I'm gonna come back and get each and every one of you, and then just runs off, is absolutely terrifying.
I was listening to the Alien Minute podcast, which does a film minute by minute. I was trying to catch up to this scene before the show today, and they were talking about, they came to the realization that before this scene, Kane still has like the egg tube inside him, and it really repulsed everyone on that show just thinking about, the aliens put this weird tube in, and it's still like in his lung or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the best part about this scene. I mean, it's gory, yes, but it deals with one of my favorite types of horror, and that's body horror, which I think is something that really everybody can connect to as being very icked out by. It just combines a lot of stuff here. It's really working on all the horror levels.
Yeah, I don't even have like a section written down or anything on this, because this could be an entire thing on its own. All the weird, like, it's H.R. Giger, like all the weird like sexual metaphors and imagery and stuff like that. Like, we could go on and on about that stuff. I mean, and mother, the maternity, all this crazy shit. But yeah, it's just, and it's for a franchise, it's interesting because the Alien franchise is sort of continuing to evolve, no pun intended, on where these things came from and their biology and stuff like that. I saw Covenant last night, and I literally said to my friends, I was like, I could watch like a nature documentary on just the alien, on just that's all I want to see. I want to I want to watch it and just learn about it and stuff like that.
I definitely felt I wanted to read like an encyclopedia about xenomorphs after that. So.
Yeah. Jay, do you have any other thoughts on the scene, on kind of how it plays out, or any highlights?
Looking at the kind of the film as a whole based on this scene, you get a lot of Ash. A lot of his reaction shots, and obviously he turns into a robot later on, or has been a robot the whole time. He's revealed as a robot, and he before Kane's chest bursting, he's like keeping an eye on him and really watching him. Just wait, he knows something's gonna happen.
For sure.
I don't think he knows exactly what, but he's doing his scientific observation, ready. And waiting, and when the bursting starts to happen, it's a long time before he steps up and comes in and says, "Try and put this between his teeth," kind of thing. He's the last person to jump into action. Yeah. And first time I watched it, I can't remember if I knew he was a robot or not, but I feel like it would be difficult if you're really analyzing the film not to pick up on.
It's funny though, because I don't remember picking up on it the first time I watched it, but it's really obvious in this scene. I mean, especially because he's the one that says, "Don't kill it."
Touch
and it's like, no, that should immediately reaction should be like, burn it with fire. And he's like, no, let's watch it, see what it does. Like,
it might be friendly.
Yeah, it might not try to like jump down somebody else's throat. It might be fine.
And then, like, even leading up to that moment, everybody's kind of sitting around and BSing and eating food and having a good time, but he's just quiet.
Yeah.
And he's watching and he's observant. And then even when he hits the table at first and is coughing, everybody kind of takes a step back, as you would to do, and he's just steady sitting there eating. And then you got that cat, goofing around in the background, whatever he's doing. And like you said, until like he finally says, try to get the spoon in his mouth or something, as if he wants to save not necessarily him, but whatever's about to happen. Like, then it kind of starts to click, and you're like,
Yeah. A great part of this for me is like the relaxed feel of the scene when it starts. everybody's relieved that that John Hurt's character is okay. They're just kind of eating, and the running joke is, like, oh, this food is terrible. It's to the point where, like, when John Hurt starts to actually go through the episode, his the one guy's like, here, come, the food's not
Parker.
that bad. Yeah, Parker. So the Ash is like, obviously he's laughing, and then just sort of like he's got an eye on him, just kind of waiting, like we pointed out. And just the chaos of this scene, like when it starts to happen, and you get those genuine reactions, and we touched on it, like that alien when he comes out, it's just such a creepy. There's like two parts to that, because it kind of it kind of comes out of his chest to the point where like blood comes out, and that's the initial shock, and they're like, oh my god, and then they kind of go back to trying to help him, and then it really kind of comes out, and even the audio, like the sound effects of it are great. It looks like an actual living thing, and that even though it doesn't have eyes, it's just got that, like, I literally wrote "fuck you guys," like it has this "fuck you guys" expression on its face, like it's just sort of taking everybody in and looking around, and he's just like, all right, this is what we're doing now, and just everybody is in shock, and it's just fantastic.
I've always kind of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I've always kind of wondered what was the actual trigger for this thing coming out. Was it all of a sudden, here comes something, like here comes some food, and it's kind of knocking him around and waking him up, and it's like this anger and rage kind of thing that he's coming out of, or is it just a timing thing, and it's like, no, now's about time, and then just shoots out?
I think it's a time.
I think it's just a timing thing.
Yeah.
Biology.
Yeah. Cool.
Lindsay, did we cover you on kind of your thoughts on the rest of the scene, or anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo pretty much what everybody else said. It's just super effective, and I think it is sort of a turning point for the film, as far as now I really don't know what to expect. So you can't really place the beats of the rest of the film, which I really love, because I think that's really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is just one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love that it takes place in the kitchen, like, in the mess hall kind of thing, because this is like the safe place for them.
Yeah.
The opening scene of the film is the first character we meet is Kane, so he has almost felt like the protagonist up to this point, because going into the film you don't know it's Sigourney Weaver. So we've lost the protagonist, but the film has been reset back to that first scene. Within this scene, back in the kitchen, everyone's laughing around, joking again, joking around about the food, and that's their home. Is this one room? Everywhere else in the ship is they're working or they're asleep in this pod. This is the one place where they can relax, and now that has been taken away from them by one of their members dying in this one room.
Right.
They don't have anywhere on the ship now they can feel safe.
And you mentioned the kitchen. There's like some cool art direction I like in here, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but right before the chestburster comes out, before we even get like his blood splatter, and he's like writhing on the table, they knock something over that's sort of like sauce-like, so it's already sort of like splattered behind him, and he's just sort of convulsing, and it just sets you up for, like, something really fucked up is about to happen. Like, you're just like, what? Because I don't think you expect gore during this moment at all. Like, I think it looks more like, oh no, like he's gonna die as the after effects. Like he's gonna like foam at the mouth and keel over or some shit. Like I don't think anybody thinks a creature's about to come out. So just like that setup they have going on really starts to put you on edge kind of immediately, and just thought about that.
Yeah, there are apparently like nastier, bloodier versions of this scene even. Like I'm not sure if it's in the director's cut. I don't know that I've even seen the director's cut, but according to IMDb, there are even, I don't know how it's possible, but just nastier versions.
Someone off screen just throws a bucket of blood at Victoria.
Throwing blood.
Veronica Cartwright, yeah. Just at her. Just at her. Yeah. No one else.
So we touched on the Spaceballs parody scene, and I just if we can touch on that. Lindsay, have you seen Spaceballs?
Nope.
Scene? No, you haven't. Oh, okay. Well.
You have a treat in store for you.
Yeah, definitely.
that you will not enjoy.
I have no inkling to watch this.
It's basically this, but it's just so funny because somehow, some way, it's the same character. When it's Barf and whatever the main character's name is, he's kind of a Han Solo ripoff, just in this sort of space diner. It's towards the end of the movie, and the chestburster comes out, and John Hurt's like, oh no, not again, and dies. But then, of course, the chestburster launches into, hello, honey, my baby, basically rendition, and it ends with check please from Barf. But yeah, that's Go ahead, Lindsay.
I was just feigning laughter.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe check it out. Maybe don't. But any other thoughts on the chestburster scene from Alien? If not, I would like to thank Jay, Nick, and Lindsay for joining me. This was fun. I think we'll do this like periodically. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like
Every 200 shows.
Yeah, exactly. maybe every 50 or something if we're feeling generous. But yeah, thanks guys for joining me, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks.
Ditto.